Hi, how you doing, everybody? This is episode, what is it? Episode 21? Yeah, I think it is. Guest Safety Officer Lobby Group. And we're here today with Yannis and Dani from Safe Group. And Gary's here. Yeah, Gary's still here. Contractual, I know, but we are working on it. The lawyers have been called in, but he's got some really expensive ones. So first thing that we're going to do is we're going to ask Gary, to give us a brief rundown of what he's done. And and perhaps what on earth is that you've got floating above your head? And you've got, what is that, Gary? Anyway, carry on.
Thanks, Ian, for the intro. First of all, I address the point that was floating above my head. I'm no longer sponsored by SSMRT. I'm now sponsoring myself with my GW consultancy.
Yay.
So that's what's now floating above my head. So it's my logo, my crown, my coat of arms in. Anyway, quick brief about me. I'm Gary Twining-Wright. I've been in the security industry for 37 years. I've done everything from retail, hostile, events management, penetration, infiltration, training, close protection. I've worked with royalty, famous people. And that's about it, really. Oh, the only thing I don't do, as Ian rightly knows, is I don't do cybersecurity. That's not my bag.
Oh, there you go. That's saying, you're saying. And let's get on to the interesting, but I suppose, yeah, I'm what's known as a strategic security professional. And so I look at all sorts of things. I'm a generalist. If you want to know how to do something, then come and see me. I don't get sponsored by anybody. Yeah, I just rely on my good looks, and that'll have to do. So let's move on to the interesting people, which are Yannis and Dani from Safe Limited. And please tell us what you do.
First of all, Ian, I'm going to put you out of your misery now and say that the business name is actually Safe Only Ltd, which is an important distinction. But yes, well, I suppose we're the new kids on the block, aren't we?
We've only been in a year.
That's right, and very happy to be in the presence of such wisdom and experience. For absolutely for real. But yes, we started a security and sort of general nightlife agency about a year ago.
It was out of a need to make a difference, wasn't it, really?
That's right. Because whilst there have been lots of wonderful people like yourselves doing excellent work in the security industry, there's also just a lot of really poor practice, particularly when it comes to working with the queer communities, the LGBTQ plus communities. We're part of that community, and that's most of our nightlife experience is based in that community. And particularly coming back after COVID, there was such an exodus of the good security staff from the industry. Some of the people who were left were either very, very new and not bothered and just wanted a job that paid the rent, and which, is fair enough. But that was manifesting in some very worrying practice, which was abusive, which was completely against SIA standards, and which was really damaging our community. So yeah, we started this business. We've yet to have been trading for a whole year as things stand. So we're very new, but we've had a wonderful year. The demand for our services has absolutely exploded. We've gone from covering tiny little mates parties and warehouses to this. Now we're coming to Mighty Hoopla this weekend, and we're being booked for some other big festivals this summer. And I think, as we'll talk about, I think a lot of that is because people get that our approach is different from a lot of especially the big sort of faceless agencies that have a bit of a sort of an overshare of the market, perhaps. And also they just like you, Gary, I think they probably just enjoy our pretty faces.
Gary, if there was ever a time for you to speak, this is it, mate. Crack on.
I don't know what to say. Carry on, Dani.
I'll carry on.
But hang
Well,
on,
well,
if you,
yeah, I was
know what else we covered.
sorry, because I do want to ask a question. If he's you know, he's gone all shy and embarrassed on me, you know, now, which apparently, according to his wife, isn't something he normally does. He's not normally embarrassed. Anyway, hopefully Vanessa will hear this at some point. The bottom line is you were talking about, there's a couple of things I want to pick up. Faceless agencies. I want to pick up on abusive behaviour, you know, and how that manifests itself, and sort of also want to further explore how you're the solution, you know, so that you can explain where the difference is, and then hopefully we'll get to a point where we can ask how everyone else can take on, you know, these good practices, that you're trying to create and generate within the whole of this community, the security industry, which is fantastic. So, which one do you want to go with first?
I mean, the practices. In terms of practices, our main angle is just treat people nicely. We find that a lot of times if we just treat people with a smile, or be a bit more understanding and listen to what they say, instead of telling them that that's what you have to do and that's it, there's no other solution, we find that actually minimizes any potential for threats. People don't really get frustrated at us. I've had people word by word tell to me before I'm ejecting someone, and because I'm smiling at them, they're like, we can't even be mad at you right now because you seem so nice, so we are going to leave the venue. So we find that just small things like that seem to make a difference with people and land a lot nicer.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it is that in many ways it's that simple, and it's that complex, because underpinning that approach of actually just being human is a lot of back office operational practice that we have within our team. And this comes to your point, Ian, about the sort of the big faceless agencies, because my impression since I've been working in the security sector is that, or in fact just broadly since I've been working in nightlife, is that I think many security workers are among the most dehumanized in the workforce, in the sort of the generalized workforce. People work in exceptionally stressful conditions for like minimal pay, long hours, random parts of town with communities they have no particular connection to. They are dealing with some of the most vulnerable and challenging behaviors like in any job, and yet at the end of that shift they're just sort of sent home, packed off, and there's no sense of their well-being and their welfare at the end of that shift. And then they're expected to come and do it all again tomorrow night, another 12 hours, minimum wage, no care attached to it. So yeah, the practice of us just being human and being decent is right at the forefront of what we're doing. But behind that is a whole approach to managing our team and managing our business that actually prioritizes worker safety and worker well-being, and critically, like, the humanity of our workforce. And that's not to say that like everyone's going to get everything right every single time and everything, you know, everything's going to be like perfect. It's not. That's not what we're going for. But we want our team members to be able to come to work and bring every part of themselves into the job that they want to bring, which we hope is the part of them that's actually just like that, as you said before, Ian, the part of them that's there to facilitate people's enjoyment and their own well-being. So yeah, it is as simple as a smile and a wave and a moment of connection, but it's also a lot more complex than that. And I think we're working in a way that goes against a lot of trends that seem to be quite prolific in the security sector at the moment.
Gary, first, if you just pick up on that, the customer service aspect, you know, what you know, and the way you deal and advise on that, on those matters within the security clients that you work with.
Well, it's very much we follow the same path which Dani says. It is always about being a personal face, not being that. I've reverted back many times about the old bouncer image. The old bouncer image is gone, but when we're looking at, we're trying to encourage the new modern door supervisor or the new guest safety officer to be more personable, which is important, because at the end of the day, I go back to when I was actually running doors, bits and pieces. I always found my personal introduction, like introduce myself, I'd read someone's ID, I'd look down and say, for example, it was Danny. Hi, Danny, how you doing? I'm Gary. That breaks down so many barriers straight away. And it makes it personal. We're one-on-one now. It's not just yeah, in you go. Yeah, in you go. Those days have really gone. But as you say, we are dehumanized a hell of a lot through the industry. And it's important that we do make it personal, and we are human beings. And if we don't do that, and well, I want to rephrase that. What we still have in this industry is, I don't know where these people are getting it from. They come out and they think they're old school doormen, bouncers. I don't know where they get this idea from, because the SIA training doesn't do that. But they come along and they leave the training and they come along and they meet someone who's been in the industry a few years, and they've got this old school mentality. Now, I don't know where they got this old school mentality from. I'm an old school bouncer. I was there at the beginning, no licenses, bits and pieces. So we did bounce people out. So what I don't understand is why we're still getting these people still trying to be old school bouncers when we don't exist anymore. If I can move on, if I can, I'm a dinosaur and I can change. What's going on with the new staff, the new stuff?
Yeah, well, and believe you me, Gary would know about, because he was there, in Roman times, or as dinosaurs literally roamed the earth. If you were going to have a gig, a caveman gig, would it have been called a cave rather than a rave? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Then trust me, Gary would have been there, with his little clubs to throw you out. But the element, the thing that Gary's actually touching on, and which you touched on, is the importance of customer service, the value of treating people and remembering that we're all human beings.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter which side.
Yeah, it works both ways.
Yeah. If we show that respect, I mean, one of my favorite things that people say is, "Oh, go earn my respect, mate. Go earn it," And I was saying, well, no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my respect as a human being, that you're going to be a decent person and that you're going to follow the rules and you're going to do X, Y, and Z as you should. And then it's up to you to lose it. Once you've lost my respect, that's a different, we're now in a different place. But the first starting point is always, I will respect you, what you do, what you choose to do, and how you choose to live your life. That's fine. So long as, you accept that we in the club and in the people that we work with and the clients that we have, that they have their views on what life should be as well. Sometimes, unfortunately, they don't always match up. Yes, but it's good. So moving on. What else do you see as the thing? And sorry if that sounded dismissive. I didn't mean that, because that was actually quite good. What Dani and Yannis said. I want everyone to know that. So just what else do you think needs to change?
Gosh,
yeah,
there's a lot.
There's so
Yeah,
much.
I mean, well, we've got time. That's why you're here.
I mean, I'm going to come back to this idea of working conditions, because I think this is very, very important.
Yeah.
I think there is an acceptance of working conditions in the security industry that are among the worst in the sort of the hospitality sector. And I think a lot of this is to do with the fact I'm hard pushed to see any any security or SIA presence in trade unionism, which I think is a big problem. I'm a big trade unionist, and I always have been, and I think that's a huge deficit in the industry, and I think that's a huge deficit on the side of the TUC, actually, the Trade Union Congress as well, committee, for not reaching out to those workers more. So I think that's an important point to make. But I think as long as there's a lack of investment in people as workers, a lack of investment in their, like, as long as people are just sort of plonked on doors and then left to fend for themselves, and that's that, I think we're not going to see the changes in personal practice of those workers are not going to come unless you get a few good eggs who are just in it for the love of it. But that really, those people are being exploited as things stand. They're not being respected. You know, you just spoke, Ian, about meeting people with respect.
And it all blends in with the fact that security a lot of the times is an afterthought, where it actually shouldn't be an afterthought for promoters and events. It should be like the most important, because it's the first interaction the customer has and the last interaction.
Yeah.
And if it's the afterthought, then of course you're going to get dodgy security. If you invest in it and make sure that everything is right and the conditions are good, then the staff will be happy and they'll bring their best self.
That's right. Work. I mean, yeah, some of the parties and shows that we're working with now, especially the bigger ones, you know, we've been in talks with these promoters for months and months and months. We're not an afterthought, and that's because they are having that recognition, as Yannis said, that we're the bookends of their experience at that event. And if we don't have that robust personable approach, everyone's going to suffer, and that includes them. So promoters and venue managers also have a big role to play in this, which they are. And as I said,
and again, there's always the good ones out there, but in general, that's the vibe that we get, that most of the time it's treated as an afterthought.
Yeah,
which is not good.
But I think the demand for our service and the way that we work, you know, with a lead in time and with an opportunity to really connect with that promoter or with that venue to understand what their needs are, who their client base is, who their customer base is. That's the sort of a thing that we need to be seeing more, and less of a one-line email. I need X number of people on this address. Send. That's it. So that's also a big thing that needs to change. And then thinking, I mean, you just mentioned, Ian, I think, about the SIA training, which we were pleasantly surprised by, weren't we, Yannis?
Yes.
Yeah, we really enjoyed it. We had an absolutely excellent trainer, David Ayton. Shout out to you, Dave. We're honestly indebted to you for life, because you know, he made it real for us, and he made it engaging, and he made it personable. But there were parts of that training that were substandard, and they were not adequate. And I'm thinking specifically here about the part that focused on LGBTQ plus inclusion and broader inclusion of marginalized people in the sector. The part that dealt with like working with the LGBTQ plus community was, for us as people in the room who were part of that community, was kind of
laughable.
It was laughable. And we ended up doing a lot of the teaching. And I mean, like, and I say, Dave, a beautiful man, love Dave to bits, but and he was excited by our presence as people who could share knowledge that wasn't part of the training, that he didn't have access to. But for me as a trans person, to be in that room, like, educating people about what trans means, because that's not in the training, because the trainer doesn't have that knowledge, that's a big red flag, because most training rooms are not going to have us in it. I think we're still pretty exceptional, although there are, of course, a lot of queer security and SIA operatives. But the ratios are still very, very, very low, and you shouldn't be, you know, you can't hope on a wing and a prayer that those people are going to be in the room willing to do the labor of educating the trainer and the rest of the room anyway. It's just me, I've got a big mouth and gift of the gab, so I'll just chat forever. But that is a serious issue, and I think that's a secret, maybe not so secret goal that we have, is to actually sit down with the SIA and rewrite that part of the training with them, because it needs rewriting in a big way. So yeah, that's I think if you get people at that point of training them, I think that would also make a big difference.
It's that's interesting. Gary, I'm going to let you talk on this first, because you know it's you deal with this a little bit more than I do.
A little bit more with you.
Well, I don't train anymore. I used to, but I don't anymore.
The point Danny makes a really good point there. I mean, the sort of queer transgender side of the SIA training is pretty naff. It's you know it's a splodge over. Let's get over it quickly and done.
It's just a tick in the box.
Yeah. Everyone's done it, but it's one of the most important things to understanding people's genders, understanding people's pronouns, and that's very important because people do get upset. I mean, even with our staff, you know, no matter how much I train people and try and say something, it's to understand and recognise who that person is. You know, and even just a simple thing is, what would you like me to call you? You know, if you've got their name, it's a lot easier. You know, and that's one of the things we try around, especially if I've got their IDs. I'm looking at their IDs and I would just say, what would you like me to call you? You know, and if their ID is different to the name, I will call them the name they requested, which, you know, we're keeping everyone happy. We're keeping everyone personable. Again, it's going down that path of recognising people's individual needs. You know, when they're coming to our place, they're meant to be coming to a safe and civilised space, aren't they? And that's what they want to know, is when they, you know, we're the people they meet straight away. They want to know that when they've met that person, boom, they're in there, they're happy. And just to whitewash it with the, you know, with a quick tick box, it doesn't do the industry, and it doesn't help the LGBT plus community at all. And that's important. It is interacted, and we get to understand that, even down to religions and business pieces. You know, all this stuff with the training, I've mentioned it before. There are tick boxes. You've got different cultures, different religions. You know, it's not just about the LGBT plus. It's about everything else. And having that understanding, we're just going to tick box it. You're not going to get an all-rounded individual to deal with customers as they're coming in.
Yeah, I mean, again, as I say, I can only talk now because it's been several years since I did any training at all on this particular subject. However, I am very much in touch with what's going on in terms of what training programs are being developed, how they're being developed, who's developing them, and why they wind up the way they are, as opposed to the way we would like them to be. So, first of all, the SIA do control the training program. However, the input that goes into that from the awarding organizations, who have a completely different agenda. They are looking to create a qualification, which means it has to fit certain criteria in order to qualify under Ofqual as a recognized certificate. And there are only so many, you've got so many hours that you can do, and you've got so many subjects. Now, when I last taught, I don't know, maybe you can, the EDI, and it wasn't anywhere near as complicated as it is now. Yeah, was about an hour and a quarter. Yeah, you tell me how you go through all of that, take a group of individuals. You see, you would have probably been, I don't know, I'm not going to say whatever about your particular course, but I've taught lots and lots of courses. You know, I've taught thousands of people. Yeah. And I can tell you now, there are very few people that are A, as articulate as you two have been so far, B, understand the issues, and 3, can actually speak the language to that degree, to the degree that you can. Some of them can't speak, barely speak English, and it doesn't matter whether you know, but they can do enough to get through the course, so they qualify. But that means we've got a massive gap in understanding, about what's right. Yeah, I would love to see. I could just imagine. I'll leave it to you to imagine a course I taught where I had a group of Nigerians. Yeah, and they were the best students I've ever had. Honestly, they were absolutely amazing. But but the amount of times, that I got, Mr. Fox, that can't be right. Is that right, Mr. Fox? And they're unable to understand the cultural differences that can exist, and that needs to be explained. Have you heard of Right to Be? They're Right to Be are a group that do some training programs, and that's where I went recently and did to learn all my how to behave, and get rid of my white privilege, and the fact and my beauty privilege, obviously, it's just so unfair, but yes, but to learn that, are you doing anything, because I agree with everything you said. Are Safe Only incorporating that kind of training into your staff once they've had, you've got your SIA badge, and now what are you doing anything more then to put that training in?
Well, we always have our induction days as well to start off with.
We do. I mean, I think even before the induction though, when people come to us, we have that initial conversation with them where we try and understand why they're coming to us. And with every single one of our staff so far, across all of the different teams, because we have welfare and medics as well, it's been because people are sick of the status quo, and they're sick of the environment they're working with. So they're already coming with a strong desire to actually do things differently and to bring a practice that aligns with our practice. So people have that in them anyway, and they're just they're sick of being obstructed from actually working in the way they want to work. So yeah, that's a starting point. But yeah, we do have we have an increasingly thorough induction, which is something that we've been sort of developing over the year, and that looks it touches on the SIA training, but it looks at the lived reality of putting that into practice, and it again encourages people to say, well, look, you're part of this community, you're part of, you have all these intersections as somebody who's queer, who's black, who's disabled, who's any number of intersections. Bring that experience with you, and then again, we're not just sort of demanding that people bring these intersections without backing that up with the care that underpins those intersections. Because if you are a queer disabled SIA worker, you're going to need a different experience at work from somebody who has a different set of identities, so like that's all part of the same conversation. But then we do have an induction, and then we'll kind of work on a shadowing sort of mentoring basis, depending on people's experience and confidence levels. So if people are quite new, they've just got their badge, then we'd never just sort of send them out on their own. We'd always send them to be part of a bigger team, and they'd stick with somebody else and learn practice until they're confident, until they've got their own sort of approach. Then they're happy to give it a go by themselves. Some people who come to us have been working in the sector for 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, we've got some people coming to us now. I'm so happy. I feel like we've made a breakthrough, because we're getting people actually starting to come to us saying, I've been working the doors in Soho for the past 15 years and I'm done. And that's a really strong sign in many ways, because in Soho is where you see the best of times and the worst of times when it comes to your door supervisors, I think. So yes, we're doing a lot more, I think, to keep that. And
it's important at this point to point out, obviously, all our staff, it does help that they are from marginalized communities, because they do have that understanding of, they have been discriminated at some point in their life. They have had these conversations with the rest of the community about what the issues are. So that also does help a lot. It's like puts them a bit ahead.
Yeah, that was the question. That was the question I was going to ask next. Basically, was to you know, are the people that you are employing, the people that are coming to you, are they from the communities that you're Gary? Have you got a thought at this moment in time before Yannis and Dani answer that?
No, let them carry on.
No,
I mean, we'll crack on. Yeah, I mean, like one of our, I think it's even our tagline on our website. Like, it's very important to us that people who work with us are self-identifying as queer. And that's the bottom line. We never ask people, we don't ask people ever, are you queer? We're never going to ask that directly, because again, that's wrong. That's the sort of thing that we've all been asked on the door. Oh, are you this identity? Are you that identity? And that's not an okay thing to just sort of ask people in that context. But we brand ourselves very clearly as an all queer, all LGBTQ plus organization that works exclusively with people from that community. And so whenever people do come to us, very often they're more than happy to volunteer that part of themselves and say, I'm queer and I've had to be in the closet at work, or I'm trans and I've had to be stealth at work and I'm sick of it. I just want to be myself. And they're more than happy, like they're desperate to get that part of them out. So yeah, we've never had any issues with people not identifying it with the community. But then, of course, yeah, within that, I mean, I think we have really good diversity on the team at the moment, in terms of people from lots of different backgrounds, which, yeah, includes like migrant backgrounds, disabled people, people of color, trans people. Like, we've got a really great diverse team, which means that hopefully, like, more often than not, we're able to actually match the worker with the event. So we've been working a lot of lesbian nights recently down in Southeast London, which is great. And we've been able to send some of our lesbian team members to work those events. They're having a whale of a time. The customers are having a whale of a time. Everyone's living their best lives. And it's because they're all able to actually bring that part of themselves to those interactions that happen between our staff and the customers. And it just, you know, as Yannis said, like, it actually enhances the night. It's not just a random, like, oh, we've got to pass through security and then put that from our minds. Actually, going through security is part of the experience of being at the night, and it just adds to it for every. So yeah, that's really important to us, that people have a strong identification with the community. We don't need to, like, some people who work with us are major party animals, and when they're not working, they'll be out at the raves. Not everyone is. It's less important that people are like big party people, but they do need to have an understanding of why our community is converging in this way, why we have these sort of safer community spaces. So yeah, that's really a core principle.
I think that's good, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing about it is, again, we're still going back to the point, is that whole meet and greet point of view. I mean, just going back to one of the things that really grind my gears is when people ask you, you know, your sexual orientation. Is that really important? Now, I mean, we're living in a world nowadays, it shouldn't give a damn what your sexual orientation was. We shouldn't be judging people on who they are or what they are. I mean, it's one of the things that really does annoy me. It takes me back to, I was running a big event. We used to employ probably several trans people, and it was a big major event, and we were the security team in another part of this event, and the main supplier come running over to us and goes, "You've got trans people working for you?" I said, "Yes, that's right." He went, "Oh, can we say they work for us because we're being called transphobic?" Seriously.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. That happens a lot.
Yeah. And I went, "Well, why don't you just employ your own trans people then? Because obviously you're transphobic if you're not employing them." He goes, "But can we just get away with this one time?" I said, "Do what you want, but to be honest with you, you're not really being transparent. What are you going to say? Well, the other security company employ trans people." You know, so this whole thing, you know, going back to that point, is we shouldn't really have to go down that path to say, you know, what's your sexual orientation? Does it really matter? You know, we should be accepting people for who they are, coming inside, enjoy yourselves, and that should be judged.
No, that's such a good point.
Unfortunately, though, that's not how it works.
It's not the reality a lot of the time.
And this is why initiatives like ours come in place, because change is not happening quick enough.
That's right.
And we daily face discrimination in the street, in the clubs, at work. So when you do daily face discrimination, you have to do something about it.
Oh, I fully agree with you. And it's got to be done. But then everything we're talking about here, you know, discrimination. Let's take that away from or personal life. Let's keep it onto the security side. Yeah, again, that falls back again all on the training. You know, we should be. At the end of the day, we are there for one another. We're human beings. Always falls back to that thing. We're human beings. If you're injured, you're hurt, we're there to help you. We're there to pick you up. You know, we shouldn't have to go, oh, look, hey, oh, they're queer. Oh, my God, they're queer. Who gives a shit? Sorry, I've sworn in. But yeah, at the end of the day, but who actually gives a damn? There's a human being there. And when we're inviting them into the venues, the events, and the workplaces we're working in, it's a place for them to come and enjoy themselves. And that's what the whole thing about the guest safety officer is. Come in and enjoy yourself. Be who you want to be and do what you want to do within reason. As long as you're not hurting other people, you're not hurting yourself or other people, we want you to have a great time. But this discrimination thing is, you know, it's not as bad as what it used to be. When I was doing the doors back in the years ago, excuse the way it is, but it'd be a case of, well, there's an effing puff over there, blah, blah, blah. You know, don't let them in. Times change. You know,
it's important as well to remember in these situations that people that have been discriminated, they carry a certain trauma. So then certain behaviors can trigger that. So even if someone is not being discriminated, but is actually not being the friendliest, can trigger that behavior. And even though you're not being discriminated, it could feel that you are being discriminated.
Yeah, I think
that's something that people don't talk about, because you may be nice as a person and not discriminate, but the way you're presenting yourself like this, not talking, not smiling, alludes you to another behavior, and that is triggering for a lot of people. That's why when companies call us and they're like, we don't want to hire men, they just mean they don't want men that don't smile on the door. They want anything else but that, and they can't express it because they don't know what they want. But that's our experience. That's what we've come to know.
Yeah, totally.
I think you're right, and I think that, but I also think that some of what you say there is, if you've had a bad experience, any kind of bad experience, it doesn't go away. And it's not about just security; it's about anything. You know, if you've been discriminated against, etc., then you're going to find, you know, somebody. You're more likely. You're in a position where if somebody says something inadvertently, like you say, they may not mean it, but it's like, what do they mean? Are they saying this? Are they saying that? Instead of just having that, if we have a consistent approach, as Gary said, and you said, is, you know, if we adopt this position as within security, it's guest safety officers, and dare I say human beings, where you just say, hi, I'm Ian. How are you doing? Today is going to be a great day, and I'm glad I met you. And we're off, aren't we? We have a different approach straight away to what we'd have if I know, yeah, what do you want? Yeah, or if I go, yeah, Gary's here. Yeah. So that's it. We've got a fantastic opportunity to do something. But do you think we need to do a couple of bits I just do want to catch on? Just wanted to pick up on the trade union bit for you. There are trade unions available for within the sector. GMB, there are a couple. They, you know, have played a big part in working with the SIA, since its inception. They've been a part of those discussions. You know, will they give you what you want? One of the problems that you're going to find within our the guest safety officer side of things is, you know, the reach that they can have in reality, and the fact that we live and work in a gig economy, in a disruptive economy, and there is no point pretending that we do anywise. This is why we're doing what we do, isn't it, Gary?
That's right, Ian.
Yeah, because we don't think a trade union can help.
I'm not convinced.
But that's all right, you know. But that's a discussion for another time, Dani. But and you're not the only one who disagrees with that, by the way, and that's fine. It's okay. But what I'm saying is that's our particular belief at this moment in time, and what we want to do is to put in place and start to get in place all of the things that we're talking about: the training, raising standards, encouraging people to work together, come together, see that there are no real differences, that we are all actually human beings on the same journey, and that if we want civilized spaces, we have to work together on that. But we can only be a rising tide. Yeah, and I see security. Gary, well, he's here, so he agrees with me. You know, we see security as being the rising tide that lifts all boats. That's good for business. It's good for every business. It's good for public safety. It's an investment. Yeah, and so I'm not surprised that your company and the ethics and ethos that it's, you know, espousing of being successful.
Yeah, as simple as that.
It is, yeah. I mean, what I will say, just to directly contradict myself from what I said a second ago, is that, yeah, I do think there is a lot of work to be done in trade unionism. Conversation for another time. We've managed to actually improve the working experience of our team without that input. I mean, we've set the introductory pay rate at £15 an hour, which I think is among the highest in the whole sector. We've provided all of these extra benefits, such as a taxi scheme to get people home after their shift, training, induction, ongoing support, supervision. We've set all of these standards without any, just by ourselves, because we want to do that. So yeah, there's a lot. I don't want to pass the buck onto the trade unions, but actually it's the business managers and the agency owners and all of these people, I think, just cashing in on cheap labor who could be doing a lot more themselves. Because yeah, we've done it, and we've not yet made our first million, but we finished our first year in profit, which is remarkable. So it can be done.
Can I have a job?
Yes.
I think, because if you're making money, you're doing better than I am. So that'll be good.
You're not making that much money.
Yeah,
well, there was a profit.
There was 50p in the bank.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, now I see.
We didn't end up minus.
Comes now down. Comes down now, doesn't it, Gary? You know, as soon as we're the bits and pieces, we're up there. You'll be one of those capitalists. You know,
we'll sell out one day.
Yeah, you'll be flying around in your jet, billionaires.
We'll be getting the private jet to the club.
Yeah, that's right, the helicopter. Because that's the way to travel to a club for a night out, isn't it? Arrive on the rooftop in a helicopter. I could do that. I could manage. Could you do that, Gary?
I've done it, Ian, but
of course you would have done it.
Another story, Ian. That's another story.
That's another story. Well, that's great.
But I want to go back to that point when we talked about faceless companies, and you know, you make a good point. You set a standard to rate, which is brilliant. It's just like I recently, just outside the other day, which came into me, a previous client come in, and he went, Gary phoned me up and goes, "We've got this big event. Blah, blah, what can you do it for?" And I quickly said the price over the telephone, and he hummed and hawed. And I went, "Well, that's our price at the end of the day." He goes, "I'll send you the quote across." Now, he sent me across with the company's details on it. There it is, it's all there, their name and what have you. And basically, what they're charging per security officer or safety officer, guest safety officer, was ridiculous. They will be paying something like £10.50 to £11 an hour, because it's the only way. And I went back to my client, who's no longer my client, and I went, "I'm not doing it for that. I cannot do it for that. I'll give you my prices. These are my prices. You know where we work. There it goes. You crack on with your people." And he literally emailed back and said, "Yeah, we're staying with the original quote." And that's why this is one of the biggest issues. It's a faceless company. Go on their website, You go on my website or the SSNMRT website, you go on your website, your face is there, my face is there, Vanessa's face is there. You know, as I say, you go on your website, your face is there, you're there, you're open. And it's important that people see who you're working for. I went on their website and thought, who are these people? Where's their experience? What have they done? Where, why, and how? And when you've got these faceless companies out there doing that stuff, no experience, no track record, you can't check anybody out, but they've got the job, and they're going to do a job, and they're going to supply poor working staff, and this is how it goes down the line.
Yeah,
you know, and this is what the issue is. There is a massive shortfall in staff in the industry, especially, you know, if you're looking for LGBT plus staff or queer staff. It's a massive shortfall. I mean, a lot of our staff of pre-COVID have gone. We haven't got any trans people in our company anymore. Got very few queer people in our company now, whereas before we had loads. So there is far and few between. But I think you're doing a great job by setting that standard and that figure that you're paying people.
Thank you. And it's also, it fits in with the accountability. If someone knows who the business runs, like who runs it, who's behind it, then there's a sense of responsibility, accountability. Like you can go to someone if something goes wrong. Who do you speak to in the faceless company? Who do you express your concern to? And this is what has worked a lot, because as we started with my promoters, we started with our friends essentially. So it was all trust, because they knew us and they knew that, well, if you're doing it, then we know that we can trust you. So that seems to be carried on a lot through it, which is really important.
I think you're right. And again, I would, you know, it's very difficult, because it's great to see what you're doing. It's great to hear what you're doing. And to know that there are differences, and appreciate the differences in terms of the journeys that you're on, where you are now. The journey that most companies start on, is one that is idealistic. We are going to be different. We will show the world how life should be lived. That this is it. Follow me. And off we go. And then, of course, the problem is the mortgage needs to be paid one day. People need to put bread on their kids' tables. And they're faced with a choice. Do I work, or do I deliver this, or do I compromise? And when you get led down a certain path and you become too big, then making that choice is really difficult. If you are, most of the companies that I see that are really that are sustainable and can stay successful are smaller companies that can invest and do look after the people. Hence why I work with Gary. I know lots and lots and lots of people. But then but the point is, to do something like we're doing now, we want to get this message across, then you need people who are accountable, who do have to look their staff in the eye and say, sorry, you're not got work this week, or you have got work this week, or can you help me? They've got to have that personal connection, because if you haven't got it, you're going to lose it. So I think I just want to say I think you're doing really, really well in terms of that. Is it idealism? Sorry, I don't know. No, idealism, not idealism. Idealism. That's what I do, according to I'm idol. But idealism is great. And it's a wonderful thing, but it has to be worked, but as you'll obviously be aware of. I think you've got I think in some respects, you couldn't have picked a better time.
We were quite lucky with the timing. We were quite lucky with a few things.
No, you've got to have the right, you can say luck comes into it to a certain point. And it does, you have to be, but timing is important for sure. But you've also got to have the right idea. There are other people out there wanting to be you, or doing stuff that, could be changed, pivoted to change slightly. But at the moment, you're leading. You're one of those that are leading the way, and it's great, Gary.
I agree with you, Ian. I mean, doing a great job out there. I mean, I've worked with, I've actually worked with Dani and Yannis. I think you've worked my youngest son, Lewis, Dani.
Yeah.
That's who you met. Yes.
That's came back to me there. Yeah. So I think it works with, because you see how we work. So, but you guys do a very, very good job.
But equally, Gary, I mean, like long before we even started this business, we was aware of you and Lewis, just through friends who went to the parties, and we heard nothing but great things about you. So there was already that impression before we started working together that, oh, here's a company that we're going to be able to collaborate with, and we can't say that for everyone we have to collaborate with. There's a lot of quite challenging sort of challenging meeting of minds. But we always had a sense that it was going to be a decent collaboration with you, and that's just proven to be absolutely the case. Although I'm going to be there Saturday night, so we'll be finally working together.
Great stuff. I look forward to seeing you Saturday night.
Yeah, that'll be lovely.
Please send me pictures. I want that. What did you do?
No, Gary's saying no.
No pictures allowed in the club.
No pictures allowed in the club. Yeah, what stays in the club? What happens in the club stays in the club. It's very much. No, it's brilliant. Right, what's the time? We're on yet again. We have interesting people. That's one of the problems that we have on this show. We get to find out lots and lots of different points of view, which is really, really useful because we're looking for the bigger picture, aren't we, Gary? Yeah. It's very easy to get caught in a bubble. And once you're trapped in that bubble, you can't see out of it and you can't see the big picture. So hopefully, you'll stay doing what you're doing and you'll push the boundaries. And
we try. We always check each other out. So we always call out each other on stuff.
We do.
So hopefully that will be, for us.
That's right.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. Right. Is there anything else that you want to bring up? Is there anything that we missed out that you just feel as though Ian, I must tell you this,
I mean, only to thank you and Gary for putting this together and doing this these series. I mean, I didn't know that this was a thing, but it's so great to see people. And again, we know they're there, but it's great to continue to meet people who are so engaged in changing this industry. Because I say we are young and idealistic and optimistic, but if we weren't coming across people like yourselves, it would be that bubble would be burst very, very quickly. So it is honestly working with people like you that gives us the encouragement to keep it going, because it's not an easy sector to work in, and there's a lot of stress and a lot of challenges, but there's a lot of really great connections as well. So we're very grateful to you both.
Yeah, we have some great parties.
Sorry?
You do have some good parties, and
we do have some good. Yeah, no, there are some good parties as well. That's true.
Let's not pretend. Let us not make out it's all bad.
It's not all doom and gloom. Absolutely.
No.
So, right, Gary, a few final words.
A few final words. I mean, the points we've picked up upon here is again, we fall back on the training. There's a big gap on the queer LGBT plus trans training for the SIA, which does need to be looked at some day. Don't know how we're going to achieve that. Maybe Dani and Yannis will achieve that goal. But at the end of the day, it's always about being personable, and it's great to see that there's like-minded people out there who understand being personal, and we're not being dehumanized, and we are human beings, and it's very important.
That's it.
I think
it always works both ways. People forget that we're human just because we're at the door, but we are human and we have feelings.
We do. We do have feelings.
Well, as the thing, I totally, sort of just to reiterate, I totally concur. And my takeaways on this, again, very much from yourself, is your desire to create a community of human beings a community where you recognize your staff and their needs, you know, creating a good working environment, that they can be proud of, and you can be proud of demonstrating to clients. You know, I think it's been really, really good, and I don't know, I'd like to have you back on again at some point, if that's all right. I don't know.
A pleasure. Yeah.
You know,
It's so fun.
The other thing I'm going to just mention now, we're going to be launching a website in the next our website in the next 6 weeks. Hopefully, that's the plan. Maybe 2 months, because we've had to sort of delay, mainly because of me. And as you've gathered, I like to talk for England, which means I don't do very much actual work. So we've just got our company's we've just been registered as a community interest company now, guest safety officer.
Oh, well done.
Yeah. So our aims and objectives are obviously to improve standards and communications effectively within the sector. So yeah, you know, who knows? Maybe you can write, you know, a post or two for us, you know, to say how to behave, how to conduct yourself, because this side of it has been all about establishing guest safety officers, who we are, and our desire to create civilized spaces for people to enjoy themselves in, and you obviously want the same things. So yay. Let's get going. All right.
One more thing.
Oh, sorry.
I asked Dani Yannis something. You recently done the I couldn't go to it. You gave me some of the invites to the Safer. I can't remember what it is now.
The harm reduction summit.
The harm reduction summit. That was it. Did you organise that, or that was something else? Which was somebody else?
That was me. Yeah, and that's like this is again maybe this is a separate episode about harm reduction in nightlife. But I'm a big harm reduction geek in the fullest sense of the word, regarding substances and also broader harm reduction. So that was a project that I organised with an organisation called the Love Tank, which focuses on queer health and well-being. I've been working with them on and off for many years, and that was just an event that had been bubbling since we started the business, basically, in recognition of the complete inconsistencies in practice around harm reduction across nightlife. But I think that's a good to put a little pin in that. Maybe we'll come back to that in a future episode, because that was a huge conversation. Over 40 people came to that event. It was big.
Yeah, thing. I would love to go. I just need to tell you, guys, as I've told you before, I'm poor. Yeah, I am actually broke. I don't actually work at this present moment for various reasons, because I'm recovering. But as soon as I feel better, I'd love to come down and you know, and see and be part of and hear and listen to, you know, listen to what's said. All right. Gotta go, folks, because otherwise, because it takes me, I've got to go back and like edit all of this.
Of course.
So it takes me all day. And at this moment in time, peeps, I'm a house husband. My wife is at work.
Dobby.
She doesn't call me Dobby, and I am allowed to wear clothes. So honestly, this is what I put up with. This is why he's going. And yeah, so I'm in the middle of cleaning. So I've got to finish the cleaning for the day.
Lovely.
And get the tea ready. So I need
well, it's been a pleasure.
Right, everybody, it's time to say goodbye. See you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.